welcome everybody. Phil, you want to kick us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My name is Phil Brown. I'm an engineer that I work with the water utility here at the City of Tempe. Coming up on about 15 years experience working for the city and 25 plus years living as a resident in Tempe. This afternoon, we're going to talk about an odor control study that we're kicking off that primarily is looking at the corridors of Southern Avenue and Priest Drive. The reason is there are some major large diameter sewer lines along those two particular throughways that convey about 30 million gallons of sewage every day. Some of it's coming from Tempe, some of it's actually from east of us, city of Mesa, and it's headed on its way to the 91st Avenue wastewater treatment plant out in West Phoenix. So when we have large diameter sewer lines that are conveying that much flow, as you can imagine, sometimes odors can be a result. And while the city has done a number of things over the years, we have a chemical dosing system at the Mesa border that Tempe shared the cost with Mesa years ago, and some other facilities. We recognize that there are still some issues from time to time with odors along these particular corridors. And so we're trying to look into this more deeply and see what more we can do to try to eliminate nuisance conditions. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to the meeting. Primarily this afternoon, we're hoping to let you know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and to let you know that we need input too, or we would appreciate as much input as we can get from our residents, because we can't have sensors everywhere. And so we're going to be inviting you and showing you different ways that you can communicate back to us over the next weeks. We want to hear any comments and information that we can share. So I'm going to shut up and turn it to Brian at this point, or do we want to do staff?
Let's do introductions. Mark, you want to introduce yourself? The camera will follow you in your voice.
I'm Mark Weber. I'm the water engineering manager for the city of Tempe.
And Cliff, you want to explain your role?
Yeah, Cliff Williams with CWC Engineering, and I was asked to open a hotline for the odor control study, and which I've done. The number is,
It'll be at the end. No worries.
I can't remember the number, but it's there.
It's
It
there.
starts with 480.
We
Anyway,
have that on slide.
so you can call that hotline number, and I will at that point ask questions and take down information about any information you might have, and I will pass that on to the engineering department.
And I'm Brian Newhouse. I'm with Arcadis. I'm a principal engineer, and we are in charge of coordinating all of the field efforts associated with this odor study. And today we'll be going over the various different activities that we'll be doing over the course of the next couple of months. And as others have mentioned, your involvement is crucial for us to understand where some of these odor issues lie. But we'll give you some more information during the presentation today. So I'm going to get started here.
Jenny or online?
Oh,
Jenny,
Jenny,
yes.
I'm so sorry. Jenny, you want to introduce yourself as well? Jenny, you want to unmute yourself and tell everyone your role here? There we go. Well, Jenny is our project coordinator for this project, and she's involved with all the folks on this call and this meeting. So Brian, if you want to go forward with the slides.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
So the
sorry,
first slide.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Okay.
can, Jenny.
I'm sorry, everyone. This is Jenny Lopez. I am the project manager of this project, and I am with City of Tempe. Thank you.
I sure can.
So this is just a brief outline of the meeting today. So we'll be talking about some background of how we started this odor study here. Talk about the study purpose, why are there odors in general? So we'll talk about some of the various different elements that create these odors in the collection system. Talk a little bit about the field activities that we'll be doing during the study. And then we'll get into when the study is occurring and what to expect, as well as how you can participate. And then giving you a little bit of guidance as to the next steps within the study as well. And then questions at the end, or as Laura had mentioned, if you have questions, you can also type them into the chat. So you got it now. So background, a couple of years ago, the city did a citywide overall evaluation of odors within the city. And within that study itself, there were 6 different areas that were identified. One of those areas was the Priest and Southern Avenue corridor, the right at the intersection, as well as upstream and downstream of that area. So that's the focus of this study that we're talking about today, is that area. As part of the study that was done a couple of years ago, it identified some further characterization that would be required. So that would be putting in devices into the collection system, taking samples, and then one of the other elements that was identified was further evaluation of a biofilter. So at the corner of the northwest corner of Priest and Southern, there's a biofilter. That biofilter is basically, you can think of it as an industrial size vacuum cleaner that's taking air out of the sewer and then putting it into a bed of soil that has microorganisms that change it to reduce the odors themselves.
Quick interruption. Are you folks seeing the slides?
No, I'm not.
Okay, something happened here. Hang on. We are gonna get that back. Okay. How about now?
Yes, now I can see it.
Okay, glad we caught that before we went much further.
We're still on the first slide for everyone's knowledge, so
Yeah.
we haven't advanced anywhere, so you haven't missed anything yet. So as I was mentioning, the biofilter, so that was the vacuum cleaner type of installation out there, taking the air out of the sewer and then going through that biological process to remove the odors. One of the things that we did want to let everybody know is that this is one of the areas that was identified, but there's 2 other ones that the city is addressing right now, which is first party, which is using a chemical to reduce the odors, and then pyrene as well. So those are 2 other areas that are currently having some implementation of odor mitigation. So the study purpose, really what it is to go out and evaluate the various different sewer-related odors. What we'll be doing is focusing on the diversion. There's a diversion structure that's located at the intersection of Southern and Priest. And so that's typically, as you can see on the screen, hopefully you can still see the slides. The flow that's coming along Southern Avenue is headed west, and then typically it flows to the north along Priest Drive. And then the flows that are flowing from the south into the intersection, when they reach the intersection of Southern and Priest, then they travel west. And so this diversion structure allows these flows to be directed one way or another way. So that's one of the areas where we're targeting some this odor study at, is understanding the dynamics during diversion activities. But we'll also be looking at and quantifying the levels. So there's the vapor phase odor levels that are what you smell. And then we'll also be doing evaluations on the liquid phase. So those are responsible for what's causing the vapor phase. So we'll be doing wastewater collections. And then once we have collected a bunch of information, we'll be looking at what these potential causes are, and then developing a path forward to help to mitigate those issues.
Just to check in, because I'm not seeing the slides on the screen on my monitor. Are you guys seeing them? Jenny, are you seeing the slides?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay, good. Just please let us know if they disappear again.
I will.
So in this slide, it's a big overall picture of how odors are created in the collection system itself. So odors are developed through a biological process. So it's digestion. You can look at it as a digestion of the sewer, the second phase of digestion. And that during that digestive process through microorganisms, that creates the odors. And so once odors are created, any types of fluctuations in the sewer itself in terms of the flow. So sewers typically run at are partially full, and as more flow comes in, or as we talked about diversion, where we're putting more flow up in one direction or another direction, that's where you start to get that space that's in above the wastewater surface in the collection system, and it starts to compress. And so there's areas when that starts to compress, the air finds its way out. And so that's why you can sometimes observe odors emanating from the sewer. So as part of the field activities, what we're going to be doing is installing devices. So there's two different devices that we're installing. One is, and you can see on the right part of the screen, there's these H2S devices. So that's hydrogen sulfide monitoring devices. So what it's doing is taking readings every so often and then recording that information so that we can understand what the levels of hydrogen sulfide are. So that's the Rotten small. The pressure devices, what those are small little devices to measure small little fluctuations in pressure in the collection system. So whenever there's overpressurization, that's a positive pressure, and that's where it indicates that odors can be emanating outside of the collection system, and a negative pressure would be a vacuum condition, so we'll keep it in the collection system. So we're monitoring what those fluctuations are over time to see what the impacts are. So as part of the field activities, we'll be collecting data at 10 different locations and manholes throughout that corridor, the Southern Avenue corridor, as well as the Priest Drive corridor. And then as part of the going out and collecting the data and doing the monitoring, we'll have some brief lane closures to access these different manholes. So when does it start occurring? We're currently doing some background information collection right now. So we've installed the devices, and it's routine right now. It's same as what I was doing before we even started the study, which is collecting some background data, and then the study itself will continue to go on until the first week of November. And then what to expect, as I mentioned before, there's going to be some brief lane closures, and by brief, 15 minutes to a half an hour maximum at each one of these locations, just to go in and collect the data that we need to take the samples and download the data. And then, as I mentioned, one of the things that we really wanted to convey during this meeting today is that with these different fluctuations with the diversion that we're trying to monitor, that there may be elevated levels of odors that could result from the study that we're doing today. And as part of the odors, as as the flyer has indicated, and what we talked about today is that, your participation is crucial for us to understand where these odors, how far they reach out. If you do notice the time of day, so these going on to the website or calling the number, and as Cliff was mentioning, the 480-826-8315. What that'll do is transfer the number, you'll call directly to him, and then he'll be able to take down your information. You'll be able to identify. You'll be able to provide some information at the time of day, what kind of odors you're smelling, and things like that. So we also have the ability to log on to the city's website through the neighborhood surveys and allow you to do it online instead of calling Cliff. So the next steps. So right now, as I mentioned, we're going to be collecting data between now and the first week of November. After that, we'll be doing our evaluation of that data. And then we'll be doing some developing some different alternatives on the various different ways to mitigate the odors. So we'll develop different plans, and then we'll evaluate those plans and see which ones are cost effective and putting numbers to it. Following that, we'd be looking at ways to put that into the 5-year capital improvement project plans. One also mentioned that the results of this study will be available early next year, so 2023. So we'll be posting that onto the website that's on the screen right now. Now we can move on to questions, if you have any.
And we have a pretty small group, so I invite you to unmute yourself and ask away if you have anything you'd like to know.
I do have a question. Can we call anytime?
Yes. Yes, that is a 24-hour hotline. Cliff isn't allowed to sleep.
Yeah, you can call anytime. I may not answer the phone if it's late at night or something like that, but there's a voicemail set up. Just leave a message and I will call you back to give you information and get the information from you about the situation.
I'm not seeing the chat in my screen, but I'm gonna get there. Okay, there we go. Okay. I don't see any questions in our chat, but I do see it on the screen now. Anyone? You thinking of anything?
Every time you call. Right?
Well, you can always get in touch with us after this meeting. We'll be available. You can contact the hotline and Cliff will be the one that will direct it to staff in the water department. And we will get your questions answered. Thank you all for coming. One last chance. Questions from anyone? We appreciate you showing up and learning about our project. And we look forward to you giving us any input that you experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the information.
Thanks, everyone.
I got a question.
That's the recording. I'm trying to get the recording.